Hey y'all, welcome back to the block, the Leon block that is. I'm John Tell. Thanks for tuning in. So let's get to it. First, have you checked your local races today? Make sure you do. So the first thing I want to talk about, if you are reading this, so I do want to talk about something called holding your space, which is something I guess the movement took off on Twitter several years back, and I've been keeping it in mind ever since because you ever notice that white people just don't move for you? I'm not talking about all white people, but when it comes to people of color, like, you ever notice that? Have you noticed white people never move out of your way? The politics of the pavement. Living in a city with 8.8 million other people certainly has its downsides. You notice them as you squeeze onto the already full carriage. It's a silent game we play together as we weave through crowded stations and dart across busy streets, tutting at tourists who don't know the rules. Then one day, my sister came home with a straightforward question. Have you ever noticed that white people never move out of your way on the street? She was inspired by a challenge that was popular on social media at the time, and she was angry. I realized then that there were unspoken rules that we all acted on beyond standing on the right and walking left. Walk Standing on the right and walking on the left. I'm sorry. A year ago, writer Hannah Drake issued the Hold Your Space Challenge after noticing how people of color, particularly Black women, navigate throughout spaces making accommodations for white people. Dozens of women seem to relate, sharing tips and experiences of the challenge online. Hannah argued that this policing of Black bodies stems from Jim Crow laws that provided racial etiquette for Black bodies. For the last year, I've been holding my space on the pavement. I've been barged into, scowled at, and everything in between for simply deciding not to move out of the way. I used to think that stepping off a narrow pavement to let a group pass was just the polite thing to do until I realized not everybody would do it. Some people walk with the belief that even the earth should reposition itself to suit their chosen path. Here I am in the UK, millions of miles removed from the American South, but to me, the hierarchy is still obvious. But wait, surely this couldn't happen here. London is constantly framed as a progressive city, at least enough to know that racism still exists in the world. And the history of racism in the UK is nowhere near that of the Jim Crow South. At least that's what the standard curriculum would have you believe. If you consult my old history textbooks, you'll see that Queen Victoria's reign was the only significant social and cultural moment between Elizabeth I and the First World War. It is this complete denial of Britain's violent colonial past that allows the majority to ignore the extant racial hierarchy at its core. In his essay Traveling White, writer Chinua Achebe recounts an experience of sitting in the white section of a Jim Crow bus near in Her Majesty's colony of Rhodesia, which was seen by fellow passengers as rebellion against the status quo. This too is British history. This is the article I'm reading for Facebook viewers. And one moment. I just want to share some articles for my YouTube viewers as well. What is evident from my personal experience is that these negotiations of space are not only informed by race, but also by gender, disability, and class. I'm speaking as a Black African immigrant woman whose experience differs greatly from even a Black man. In his song But You, Dev Hynes laments over his treatment as a Black man in public spaces. He worries about being seen as a threat, even though he knows that he's better than they thought. Being given more space is not always a win. In this case, the same fear that causes someone to cross the road to avoid you leads to over policing of Black men's existence in public and racist stop and search policies. It is not that I haven't had many experiences with men in public not respecting my right to space, even things like standing too close at concerts. But the negative interactions with women have struck me in the most. I realized that the same women crying chivalry is dead and girl power crop tops would trample me if I dared not to move out of their way. Sojourner Truth asked, "Ain't I a woman?" back in 1851, and even now, as I enjoy many freedoms she fought for, the sentiment still feels the same. Blackness and femininity are constructs that were never intended to fit together. The move from "you don't need that seat, you can handle it" to "you don't need that pain medication, you're strong enough to bear it" is a step, not a leap. So there's a little more to the article that I will leave for you to go ahead and check out yourself. And if you checked out the video in the beginning of this piece, but that doesn't work. So you will see that I'm going to be talking about holding your space. And why I'm actually wanting to talk about holding your space is I remember this challenge. I remember thinking in detail about it and noticing it everywhere I went in public from that point on. 99.9% of white people, whether they realize it or not, get offended or feel some kind of way when you hold your space, but they don't realize that because of the ways of society, they automatically just assume that they always should have the right of way. And I don't think it's anything that even a lot of people of color really acknowledge as well, because a lot of these things are like subliminal behaviors that we've adapted and inherited, and we don't think too much of it, but they're there. And it's just as important to try and correct those behaviors within yourself as it is if you were tolerating someone saying microaggressive things on a regular basis, you know? So there's this article I just posted in the comments as well. This writer is challenging Black folks to hold your space by refusing to move out of the way for white people. And this was from back in 2018. It still rings true. A Black writer has issued a challenge that might produce a bucket of white tears. In her piece, "Do Not Move Off the Sidewalk Challenge, Holding Your Space in a White World," writer Hannah Drake urged Black people and other folks of color to refuse to move out of the way for oncoming white people. "My challenge for Black people and people of color, particularly Black women and women of color, is to hold your space. I challenge you for the next 24 to 48 hours to be aware of your body in spaces and do not move for a white person or make any apologies for physically occupying any space. Be mindful of how you navigate sidewalks, who moves to accommodate you, and who doesn't. If someone infringes on your space, do you speak up or remain silent? Make a mental note of any time you feel you were expected to move and the reaction of the other person when you didn't. Take note of how people accommodate others in spaces. Was it frightening or empowering to hold your space? Do you think people felt you were intimidating? How did you feel at the end of the day? Drake also urged white people to be more cognizant of how they occupy space. For white people, I challenge you for the next 24 to 48 hours to be aware of how you treat black people and people of color in spaces. Do you have an expectation that black people and people of color should move out of your way? How many times do you insert yourself and your comments into virtual spaces because you feel it is your right without reading and listening to people of color that have stated their truth on a particular issue? Do you speak around the black person as if they are not in the room? Do you interrupt people of color when they are speaking? Are you cutting a black person or a person of color in line because you feel it is your right? Also, be aware of how it feels to be cognizant of how your body navigates spaces and imagine how that would feel to do that at the very least for 8 hours of each day. And Drake came up with this challenge based on situations she experienced while maneuvering through an airport. While riding a moving sidewalk, that's interesting. While riding a moving sidewalk, she noticed another black woman was rushing to catch a flight, and when she encountered Drake, she easily brushed past her. But when the woman encountered a white man standing in the middle of the walkway, there was a drastic change in her behavior. He never turned around, never moved, and never once thought that others behind him might need to pass. While I would like to say the black woman leaped over him, luggage in tow in a single bound, she stopped dead in her tracks. She never said a word. She never politely tapped the man on the shoulder to say, "Excuse me, may I get by you?" She just accepted that he was not going to move, and for some reason, even thought that she was in an apparent rush, that even though she was in an apparent rush, she made a choice not to ask for him to cede the space for her to pass. She waited for the rolling walkway to come to an end, waited for him to saunter off the walkway, then immediately took off in a sprint heading towards her gate. I can relate to that. I've done that myself. That scene influenced how Drake behaved for the rest of her time in the airport. When she stopped for a meal, a white man stopped directly in front of her to salt his food. After her experience on the walkway, Drake stayed put. After he enjoyed a few bites of his food and noticed I was not going to move, he packed up his belongings and moved to the end of the counter. Victory. It was just that easy. I made a conscious decision as a black woman to hold my space. I was not going to cede my space to a white person because that is what is expected of me, she wrote. Drake says she felt empowered by that decision and now she wants to see how it'll work for other people. I am here. I have every right to be here. I have every right to be in spaces. I will no longer apologize for taking up space, nor will I cede my space to a white person simply because that is some unwritten but expected rule. Over the next 2 days, walk in your authority. Walk as if you want the world to know I am here because you are here and you deserve to be, she concluded. I remember reading this article. This was the article I um that I came across that put me onto this whole challenge, this whole movement. Chances are if you're a black or brown person who regularly crosses paths with white people in white dominated spaces, you're familiar with the phenomenon of feeling like you're the only one in the way when sharing sidewalks and grocery store aisles with them. Maybe this sounds paranoid to some. Sure, every white person is consciously calculating how they can assert their dominance over other groups by man spreading whiteness. No, it's more so the unconscious entitlement to space that white people feel that allows them to brazenly and inconsiderately dominate public spaces with their bodies because why shouldn't they? The Hold Your Space challenge, however, is empowering people of color to stand their ground and hold their space by not moving out of white people's way. A concept that many people of color already acknowledges, writer Hannah Drake recently wrote a powerful blog entry challenging others to follow her lead and reclaim the public space black and brown bodies are entitled to. It's extremely important. And this was again from 2018. So the challenge was from 2018. 3 years later, I think it still rings true. And I came across a uh, Twitter post that had mentioned it again, and it just kind of re-sparked my whole debate about holding your space and not ceding your space to particularly a white person that thinks that it's just their right to walk where they please and people should just move out the way and part like the ocean. That's not how things work. So I had took a trip out of the state, was in a different area, which doesn't change anything because people are the same no matter where you go. But I was out of town and I was at a bar chilling with my homie, having a good old time. Actually, I think we were the only black people at the bar. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But outside on the patio, and there's this white girl sitting like kind of diagonal from us. Like there was nobody else really out in the area of the patio where we were at. And you could tell she was pretty drunk. And me and my homie, you could tell like, we're gay and we're queer and we're having a good old time. It seemed like she was really trying to find a way to ice break into our conversation because she was, like nodding and like looking over our way the whole time. Like she was just trying to find a moment for her to jump in and interject and speak on something because I think she was a closet fag hag. Like she never really had any queer guys to converse with or maybe make her feel validated. That is the energy that I felt from her before she even spoke to us, right? So then I can't even remember what the hell we were talking about, but she jumps in the conversation, like she gets up, jumps in the conversation, and I can't even remember. She was just jumping in and using all of the yes girl phrases and shit like that, assuming that you know me. You don't know me. But that was interesting enough. And I kind of feel like the whole time that we're sitting here listening to this woman talk to us about her relationship problems. Again, this is typical thing that happens to gay men when they're just trying to go out to a bar and have fun. Like I hadn't seen my homie before. I really just wanted to have a good time and hang out with him. I really wasn't trying to converse with other people. And so we're just kind of sitting there like trying to be kind and listen to her, but not really listen to her to hope that she gets the point to just walk away, Karen. And she didn't. She just like doubled down. She didn't get the hint whatsoever. And that was just like annoying enough. But then she proceeded to, your hair is so beautiful. Can I touch it? So my homeboy looked at me and I looked at him and I laughed my ass off. Like we were just like, The hell? Like, this is not happening right now. This is not happening right now. And she had literally, like, because I was bending down to do, I was kind of like bent down, and it just happened to be that way. Like, I guess because I was laughing or something, and like I was kind of near her at a moment, and she like had reached out as if she wanted to like pet my hair, and I just like I kind of kicked back a little bit and continued to like laugh. This is all a matter in a second, like seconds, right? And me and my homie looked at each other. He gave me the big eyes, like, nigga, don't. Like, no, this girl, I cannot believe she just asked that. You know what I mean? But it has nothing to do with the fact that I had liquor in my system. But I wanted to make this a teachable moment, and I didn't want to make this any awkward than it already was. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, touch my hair. And she touched my hair real quick, and she's like, "Oh, it's so nice. It's so kinky." And we bust out laughing, me and my homeboy. But my point is that I was like, now. I laughed real quick, and then I was like, now, let me tell you something. Don't ever ask anybody else of color that ever again. I can tell that you're drunk. Don't do that again. That is not cool, and that is not something that you ever want to do. I was nice about it, but somebody else could have beat your ass. And I think she got what I said, because I said that real quick, and I was very serious about it. Don't touch my fucking hair. That's that bullshit, y'all. For real, that's not something that is okay. That is not something that we do in 2021. And if you're drunk and you do that to somebody, expect repercussions. For real. She's lucky that she got me and not somebody else, because for real, it could have been some problems. I get that that was more like, I guess it was more like a white area or something, but it still, for me, brings up the question, people still do that out here? You really be touching people's hair out here? I get the curiosity of it, but do you understand how invasive that is? That's just like, I don't know, to me, that's just like reaching down somebody's pants and being like, what's in your pants? And already in the process of reaching. Like, who does that? Or like reaching for a woman who is pregnant and saying, "Oh my God, that's such a big belly," and then like already reaching for the belly. Like, that's no, you don't do that. Do not touch my fucking hair. So that wraps that up for the things that I wanted to talk about real quick on that, because that was some stuff I had to get off my chest on that note. Which brings me to the next thing. Time for a block drop. So, block drop. This headline. The first headline I'm giving you, as you can see, is the protests that happened over Dalton police shooting that killed 19-year-old Alexis Wilson, which ended with arrests. A protest over a highly charged surveillance video in Dalton ended with arrest Wednesday night, as CBS 2's Charlie DeMar reported. The video showed an incident last month in which a woman drove off and dragged a Dalton police officer before police shot and killed her. Chicago Road near 142nd Street in Dalton was back open Wednesday night. Police had shut it down for some time during the protests. Several police departments were called in, including Illinois State Police. There's surveillance video of the situation, and Illinois police are still investigating the officer that killed Alexis Wilson. There is, coming up September 11th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., In Lancaster County, the town of Christiana, which holds very significant history in American history, where approximately 40 black men and women, former slaves, freed people alike, defended freed slaves from uh, getting captured by their former slave owners, and they shot and killed the man. They were tried for treason and got off. And the story is a really awesome story that includes bits and pieces that have to do with American history with such heavyweights, I guess you could say that, as John Wilkes Booth and Frederick Douglass. And it has to do with things that happen right in our own backyard here in Lancaster County for people who are local. And so it's something you might want to check out. If not, the Leon Block will be live to air it and show you what's going on. But there will be fun games, reenactors. There will be a tour giving you history of what happened. But September 11th this year is the anniversary of when it happened. It took place September 11th, 1851. But it's a pretty dope ass story. And if you're looking for any info on it, contact me. I can give you more. The host is Darlene Colon and the Christiana Historical Society. And then, of course, coming up September 13th is the Candlelight Vigil in remembrance for Ricardo Munoz in Lancaster City at Penn Square, September 13th, 6 p.m. I also want to touch on this real quick because, as you know, earlier this year, I followed Dante Wright's story heavily, even went out to Minneapolis and Brooklyn Center and went to the memorial and walked around. And so this story is something that's really heavy on my heart and mind a lot. And so Mercado Media put this out earlier today. And of course, it says state of Minnesota adds first degree manslaughter charge against former Brooklyn Center police officer Kim Potter with the death of Dante Wright. Potter had previously only been charged with second degree manslaughter. The former officer is set to stand trial on November 30th. So, of course, Mercado Media will keep us posted as to what's going on up there locally. And that wraps it up for the block drop tonight. Just quick and easy for you. And if you got any comments, opinions, anything about what was talked about tonight, holding your space. And if you have any stories about holding your space or not holding your space and what happened, if you have any stories about somebody touching your hair, especially if they drunk, I want to hear about it. All right, let me know because I'm really interested uh, to see how you handle that situation. You know what I mean?
Intentions. No, I promise we were like not racist. No, we literally just painted the kitchen white. Okay, cool. We want something to eat. Okay, bet. I don't think we have any like string cheese or anything, but we do have some leftovers from last night. So how was spring break? You went to Florida? Yeah, I can tell you're like really dark. No, wait. Are you the reason why I can't find my foundation shade? Oh my gosh, we're literally just making a joke. Calm down. But like seriously though, like do your people like not care about skin cancer? So you're coming to church with us on Sunday? Okay, great, because me and Britt gotta teach you how to clap on beat. Whoa, okay, wait, you're like so defensive today. You make jokes like these all the time, like what's the problem? What do you mean me and Brit are racist?
Yeah, what the heck?
No, we're not. Our phone chargers are white. And when have we ever been racist? Wait, pause. Do you have any lotion? Oh wait, never mind. Hey Brit, do you have... But I think you should like kind of be careful